Well, it looks like pretty much everybody has made it here. It's just a little bit after 6 o'clock, so I think we'll get started. I'd like to welcome you to this meeting intended for the people in Oakport that are Red River Valley Cooperative Power Association customers. And my name is Bill Schwant. I'm the General Manager of Moorhead Public Service. Moorhead Public Service is the electric and water utility in Moorhead. And I report to a board of directors called the Moorhead Public Service Commission. So if you have a problem with anything I say, you can talk to them. And I was going to introduce them. We have Ken Norman, and he is actually the representative from Ward 1. He's back in the back of the room there. So Ken Norman is Ward 1 representative. We have John Regala. Which ward are you from? 2. And then we have Dave Anderson, and he's, are you number 3 or 4? 4, Ward 4, it doesn't really matter. I mean, 1's the only one you really need to worry about right now. Ralph Maynard Meelan is back here, and Les Bakke is here somewhere as well. So those are the 5 commissioners that operate Moorhead Public Service. We have staff at Moorhead Public Service around the room here. Chuck Hendrickson is one of the co-liaisons, representative from the council, and he is here as well. So again, I'd like to welcome you to this meeting. And what we're going to do tonight is this is going to be pretty informal. I'll be bringing up a number of items, three general areas that we'll talk about. And then, after each one, we'll have questions and answers. The first area is going to be just in general the Moorhead Public Service providing service in Oakport. Part 2 is going to be I'll just talk about some of the flyers that you picked up over here, about some of the programs that Moorhead Public Service has. And then part 3 is going to be primarily on the conversion of dual fuel. So if you're a dual fuel customer or interested in dual fuel, I expect that to take a little bit of time. If anyone wants to leave, that isn't interested in the dual fuel program, they can do it at that time. One other introduction as we get started talking about the conversion is Lauren Brorby is the CEO of Red River Valley Cooperative Power Association. He's in the back of the room. And Lauren and his board have worked really closely with our board to make this a seamless transition as we do this summer. So let me talk just a little bit about what's going to happen later on this summer, really what's happening right now. Right now, Moorhead Public Service has its electric crews and contractors putting in a main feeder line up to the Oakport area. It'll be a loop system that basically goes up to Oakport and around it and through it, and it will provide reliable service to Oakport residents. Around October 1st or early part of October, we're hoping that we will be ready to basically take Red River Valley meters out of the sockets and put Moorhead Public Service meters into the socket. About as much time as it takes to do that is what you'll have as far as an interruption. So I mean, it'll probably take 2 weeks to do that conversion in different phases throughout the Red River area of Oakport. And so 2 weeks to do the entire area, but there's a lot of work that's going on both from Red River side and our side behind the scenes to get ready for that to happen. I know that Red River is actually going to be doing some work during the summer for the people that have dual fuel systems to actually come in, take the meters out of their dual fuel system, put a plate on that, and basically leave that for us to come in later and do something. So, but we'll talk about the dual fuel in just a few moments. The other thing I should say too is we're not transferring all of Oakport this year. We're doing the part that's Red River Valley Cooperative Power Association. There are neighbors of yours that are served by XL Energy up there. It's about 2/3 Red River and 1/3 XL Energy. And so the 1/3 that's XL Energy, we're going to do that next year. So all that we're converting this year is the Red River Valley Cooperative Power Association customers. So if if you recall which one you are, if you're an XL customer, this meeting kind of isn't for you. You'll have the same kind of meeting next year about this time. So anyway, that's kind of a general overview of some of what we're going to provide there. I mean, and I'll just stop right there and see if there's any kind of questions about that conversion process. So the what that's going to happen is, you will all be served by Moorhead Public Service sometime in October. And the when will be October. And as far as what you need to do to prepare for that, as far as that conversion goes, there's really not a lot you really have to do. You're already getting a bill if you've got water service from us, and you do. You already get some of the city services on the bill, and the only thing that'll change is that you'll get electric on that bill as well. So you're getting billed, and there'll just be another line on the bill. Everything else should be fairly seamless for you. Again, if you don't have a dual fuel system. Okay? So that's part one. So any questions on part one? And maybe I'll go through all three, and then we can ask some questions. Okay, part one, done. Part two, services of Moorhead Public Service. This was generally just a discussion about, not a discussion, but I'll just introduce you to Moorhead Public Service just a bit more. Along with our dual fuel program, which is very similar to Red River's dual fuel program, which basically interrupts an electric primary heating source and puts it on some type of a backup, and you get a lower rate for that. And it generally is competitive with natural gas and fuel oil, but fuel oil and natural gas prices are significantly down right now, so it's not the the best deal like it used to be, but it's still a good deal. That's one program. Other programs that we have, for instance, are Thrifty Watts. That's another, for us, it's another program. If you aren't on our dual fuel system, you actually can sign up to have us interrupt your water heater and your air conditioner. And we will provide you with a monthly credit for that. And the details are in the rate brochure. But generally, we encourage all of our customers to be on a program like that. It helps us keep our power costs down. So you get a little bit of a savings. It may not sound like a lot. It's a few dollars every month. But it really does help us in keeping everyone's rates down. And we pass those savings on to the customers that participate. So that's our Thrifty Watts program. We have budget billing. You're probably familiar with that because you may or may not be on that now. That's just an encouragement. If you like flat bills, go to budget billing. We've got auto pay, so we can take it right out of your checking account if you like those kind of options. We have credit card paying. We've got online paying, all those things. So those are some of the more details that we had. One question that we've had from a few people is our Capture the Sun program. We've got a photovoltaic solar power or solar panel program where basically instead of putting solar panels on your roof, we will put it in they call them community gardens. And basically, just like it's on your roof, it's in a field up by the 2 wind turbines. And just like it's on your roof, you get credit off your bill for whatever it produces. And it's something to look into. You can buy 1, 2, 10 panels if you want. If you're going to put it on your house, you'd probably put 10 to 15 panels, and it's relatively expensive. This way, you can actually purchase 1 or 2 panels, and it's actually fairly economical. The payback isn't going to be 2 or 3 years. It's going to be more like 10 to 20 years. But you'll have to do the math on that and decide if you want to do that. So it's a good way to support renewable energy and go green, if you will. So that's another one of our programs. And I think I've hit most of the programs that we offer, and there's lots of details that you've collected over here. Thank you for picking up all that information. Now to the third area. And I'll pretty much focus on the letter that you got and the packet of information that you were mailed if you're a dual fuel customer. And the letter in the first paragraph basically says, you know, there's something that you have to do in order to comply with Moorhead Public Service rules and regulations regarding the dual fuel system. And we've learned from doing this before that in order for us to be as efficient as we can be and have our employees understand what's going on in everybody's houses, it's good to standardize on how we do things. And there is a difference between how Red River Valley meters and controls their system than Moorhead Public Service does. Neither one of them is good or bad, or they're just different. And so instead of, you know, converting or putting in a dual system for us to control two different sets of systems, what we're doing or what we're proposing to you is that we're going to pay for a majority of the cost for you to convert to our rules and regulations and have your system operate just like everybody else's system in Moorhead. So what the commission approved was to pay for 80% of all the costs to convert the metering and the controls to Moorhead Public Service standards. Now that's a very general statement, and I was actually in Oakport along with Dennis Eisenbraun this afternoon looking at somebody's dual fuel system to see how we would convert that. And you know what we've heard from electricians that we've talked to is that they're all going to be different. So we are going to have to talk to you individually, but what I would encourage you to do is talk to your electrician, talk to him early, you know, because our offer goes through the end of this year. We'd like everybody, if they're going to choose to be on Moorhead Public Services dual fuel system, you need to take action in order to get it done by the end of the year. And we'd really like it to be operational for our peak heating season, you know, which will be December, January, and February. If you don't want to be on the Moorhead Public Service dual fuel system with the you know, plate that Red River is going to put on the meter and such, you can operate that way and not do anything. Oh, Lauren's got a comment.
Just interject one little comment. Starting on Monday, our member service department is going to be contacting anybody that's on the dual fuel system with us, and we'd like to make arrangements, setting up appointments. Set up appointments with anybody that has a meter inside their house, so our master electrician can come and actually disable that and or pull all the wires out. I would encourage all of you to evaluate if you want to be on Moorhead's dual fuel system. If you already have a dual fuel system, it's always a good idea to stay on it. With that said, propane prices have come down, like Bill said earlier. Natural gas prices have come down. But the dual fuel system allows you that opportunity to decide, do you want to be on electric or do you want to be on propane? Do you want to be on fuel oil? You're in charge of that. That's one of the best options of that dual fuel system. So please make sure you evaluate that. But I just wanted to add that we will be contacting everybody starting next week to try and set up arrangements to pull our equipment out of your house. That'll allow you the opportunity, if you decide to remain on Moorhead's dual fuel system, to hire an electrician and have comply with Moorhead's electrical code.
Thanks, Lauren. And Lauren's going to be here through the whole meeting in case there's any questions about what their provisions are. And thanks for the plug for dual fuel, because we really do encourage people to be on the dual fuel program. Our commission would like, you know, as many people that would like to convert, and that's why they're paying, you know, 80% of the cost to do that. And you know, I think that's like Lauren mentioned. I mean, it's not a bad hedge against future, you know, drastic increases in fuel oil or natural gas prices. And Doyle is going to tell you that, you know, fuel oil is going to stay down, but hey, Doyle, you know, it may not. Yes?
Even though there are lots of different situations as far as what metering and relays and whatnot we have now, do you have a general guideline of what it's going to cost to convert from the present Red River system to your system?
You know, that's a tough question, and I'll look at my, electrician operations manager back here if he wants to venture a guess at that. I mean, it depends on, if the meter's inside, it's gonna be more expensive. If the 2 meters are outside, it's gonna be, it's gonna be less expensive. But generally, we think it's gonna be under that $2,000. Now, probably a majority of them are gonna be under $1,000. And, but you're gonna have to evaluate that. So if it's under 1,000, and you pay 200 to have the flexibility in the future to, have some options. And I just looked at the chart today, Dennis was talking about, we're competitive with, with fuel oil and natural gas. That's all I can say though, is competitive. It's not like you're probably saving a lot of money, but if you've got the system already, it's all there and you just have to do some wiring changes, it's worth getting an estimate from an electrician to see how much it's gonna cost. So, Joe, did you have any,
There again, each system is different, and it depends upon if your meter and your panel are close together, it won't cost near as much to do it. Some people have dual heats and shops set up where they only have one line running to their shop. Well, in that case, it would be more expensive because you'd have to run a second line out there so that we can do we don't do sub-metering or subtractive metering, we do main line metering. So Bill is very correct when he says it could vary widely as to what you have. So the best thing to do would be to talk to an electrician, and you can talk to a couple of them and see what they say.
now we have 2 mics, so.
So if we switch to this dual fuel, are we required to use a dual fueled electric rates for a certain amount of time? Or are we able to switch to gas if it says it's cheaper now? Then if gas goes up, can we switch back to the dual fuel system? And what is electric, current rate at electric for dual fuel right now?
You're fortunate that we probably didn't anticipate this. So we have no regulations that say you have to use it for a certain amount of time. So this incentive has no, strings attached, other than what's in our current regulations that say, if we find that you're not using the system, we can come and pull our controller off, and basically you're off the system, and you gotta, take some action or get an electrician out there to put it back in at some point. We've never done that in the past. I wouldn't expect us to probably do that in the near term. But if you do end up converting, the prices are about the same, or we're probably a little bit less. So you're probably going to run on our system anyway. But are we going to police that? I don't expect us to. Our regulations say we can come and take the controller out.
Okay, one more question. I got a separate shop. If I put 2 meters on that separate shop, what is the meter charge?
Meter charge is $2 a month. I thought that was going to be a harder question, so I was kind of going toward Joe there. Oh, okay, Joe's looked at it. Well, and that's, a lot of you probably know somebody that can come and help you devise the best system. And again, on our website, or you've probably collected it, is our rules and regs. Our electricians or the electricians in the area are very familiar with our systems, and just encourage you to take a look at there's diagrams and everything in our rules and regs. I know there was another couple of hands here, because I know you're not done. This is a big crowd. Dual fuel rate right now, Dennis, is what?
0.043. The current dual fuel rate is 4.35 cents a kilowatt hour, and there will be a 0.006 adder for Oakport customers.
Okay.
But it's basically just a little over 4 cents a kilowatt hour.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. You can ask a question so everybody hears it.
I'm just curious as to why we have to pay these surcharges. There's one in here for either .01 or .22 cents surcharge for Oakport people? Why is that?
The surcharge was something that was negotiated in the orderly annexation agreement years and years ago. So I mean, about 28 years ago, that was part of that. So that's what's in the, pardon me? It goes away when the investment is paid off, which the investment is just not the cost of us putting a feeder or anything out there, but it's what we've had to compensate the other utility for providing that service and, you know, other investments that have yet to be determined because we haven't done all that. So, I mean, we pay Red River for a period of 10 years for the service. So as far as timeline, I'm not sure how long it'll last, but it's probably going to last 10 years. Good question.
You're not on electric heat, it doesn't make any sense to switch over.
Well, that's a good question. So if you're not on dual right now, you know, does it make sense to go on dual? And, you know, our new dual heat installations have slowed way down, you know, because the cost of dual fuel and the cost of natural gas and fuel oil are about the same. You know, so unless you're putting in a new system, you know, your furnace is shot and you want to convert and you know an electrician that will. Yeah, I mean, you know, it'd probably have to be, you know, you're a do-it-yourselfer and you want to have some options in the future or add. I mean, it's not a bad system to have. As far as the incentive goes, I mean, we have incentives if you put in a new dual system, but it's not the same as our conversion. You know, we're not paying 80% of the cost. Good question.
On that thrifty, whatever it's called, the thrifty thing, you know, with your air conditioner and so forth. Well, how about the fact that if you are already, in a sense, raising your thermostats during the summer, so you're not having your house real cold, and then, of course, in the winter, having the thermostat set down low, are you going to gain anything with that other program that you talked about?
Good question. And the answer is yes. I mean, you probably won't even notice that we're controlling. The people that notice that we're controlling are probably the ones that keep the air just a bit, you know, further down and they're a little more sensitive to it. Because in a control period for air conditioning, it will raise a couple of degrees if we're controlling for 3 hours. A lot of people don't notice it, but I think some people do. But if you have the thermostat up a little bit or you're not as sensitive to it, it's a good option because it gives you a few dollars per month. And we pay all those costs in putting the controller in. There's no upfront cost to you at all. We're not going to come out and do it this fall, though, because our program is it annually, right? And so you'll get a postcard in the mail next year sometime, and then you'll send that in if you want to be on that program. But it is I encourage everybody to be on that program because it's kind of good community spirit to do it. And most people don't really notice that. And it's the water heater and the air conditioner. So here's a mic here.
What about the 480 three-phase lines and meters?
A little more specifics, and then Joe is going to answer this one.
Okay, well, we have one and on a well, and what do you have to do with that? Just change the meter?
I believe there's 2 wells out there, is that correct, Lauren? Okay, I believe there's 2 wells, and we will refeed those with 3-phase transformers, and then we'll just convert our meters to them. So it should be a simple fix. A few things we have to just double check to make sure it's turning in the correct direction. And, but that, we've already anticipated that.
Do we want to make bubbles in the well, huh? Good questions. He asked to explain the surcharge again. The surcharge, what it was, back when the orderly annexation agreement was agreed to, it basically allows Moorhead Public Service to add or put an adder on the rate that's half the difference between the existing provider's rates and Moorhead Public Service rates. If the existing provider, they didn't know what was going to happen in 25 years. So if the existing provider would have been, lower than us, then there'd be no adder. You just pay the regular rates. But if it was higher, the surcharge would be half the difference between Moorhead Public Service rates and the other utilities rates. So, XL's rates and Red River's rates are different. So there's two different surcharges. So, and again, that's on until, the investment is paid off. I can't even venture a guess to that right now. We will know more after all the costs come in, and we basically do some calculations to figure out what the quote investment is. What I can tell you the investment isn't is there's no charge for the main feeder line that's being constructed up there, for all the hookups in there, because basically this is like a new subdivision in Moorhead. So we don't charge those charges to any new subdivision in Moorhead. So none of those charges are going to be charged. The only charges are the extra charges that Moorhead Public Service has to, pay in order to acquire the customers. And that's, we don't know for sure exactly how that's going to work out in the calculations. Like I say, I would venture to guess that it's going to be, like 10 years, because we're paying the cooperative over a 10-year period. So we got somebody else who's going to answer. One of our commissioners, Ralph.
You may want to explain that the rates are going down. You talked to it, you may explain the rates are going down.
Sure. Yeah, the rates, from what you're paying right now, the rates are going down. So right now you're paying Red River rates that are a bit higher than Moorhead Public Service. And so here's Moorhead Public Service rates, here's Red River's rates on average. Your rate's going to be here. It's not going to be what everybody in Moorhead's paying. It's going to be a little higher than that. It's going to be half the difference between Red River's rates and our rates, or Moorhead rates.
Why aren't they the same?
Oh, go ahead. I'll get to you.
You had mentioned $2,000 as far as the co-pay or whatever on switching it over. Is that a cap that's put on up to $2,000? You'll pay 80% of that, or? Right.
Yeah, and that's just based on what we expect the cost to be. If somebody comes and says, hey, mine's going to be a lot more expensive than that because it's so complicated, you may end up saying it's not worth it for you and it's not worth it for us to do it. So we had to put some number on it. If it's more than that, come and talk to us.
And another question, on your Ripple, do you have a time limit that's in your program as to how long you can have someone rippled off on your system, or could it just run indefinitely if something happened?
Well, we have different time limits for different devices. So we've got a short-term water heater control, which is 3 hours, a long-term water heater control, which is 8 hours. Storage heaters are different, if there's any of those out there. But on the systems that have a backup, we generally aren't running that much, but I don't think there's any limit, because those have a backup and they can operate basically for as long as you got propane in the tank.
Well, that's what I was wondering,
Yep.
if you just leave it on off-peak and they'd have to use up the fuel oil or whatever.
We watch that. We try and minimize the hours. We keep track of it every year. Any idea what the hours were in the last couple of years? Under 100 hours per year, which is, I think, pretty modest as far as how much we use the system. Good question.
going to be buried, and are the current lines and poles going to be taken down?
Travis, I knew you were going to get a question. Our electrical engineering manager, Travis Schmidt, over here.
All right, so all the lines that are currently in place will stay in place, whether they're overhead or underground. What MPS is doing is we're gonna put the main feeder underground, so that'll be completely, weather and squirrel and tree safe. The distribution lines, which go into the developments and stuff like that, those again will be all underground as well. The services that you have, if you're an underground service, that underground service will stay that way. If you have an overhead service, it will also stay overhead. You do have the ability to convert your overhead service to underground, and what MPS does there is we will provide you the wire, the service cable from the transformer to the house, and then all you'll have to do is hire an electrician to convert your meter service and then have them put the wire underground.
So if you want to put your system underground, we would encourage that. I think it's a bit more reliable. We'll provide the wire. You'll have to have an electrician install it. Whether it's a good time to do it during this process, I mean, talk to your electrician, I guess. You guys getting warmed up now, so.
What are the plans for streetlights out in our area? Are they gonna be along the main thoroughfare there, or are they going into private drives at all, or what's the plan on that?
We got Travis on board here now, so now we're getting Travis all warmed up.
So the plan with street lighting, and the city of Moorhead owns the street light utility, and what MPS does is we just maintain the lights for them and install them.
Why don't you wander this
Yep.
way? And
So there are some maps in the back of the room. If you didn't pick them up, you can look there too. We do plan to put lights on Oakport Street and on Wall Street. As you can see here, that's everything in red if you're looking at the maps. Everything in green is what's existing currently. That does not include yard lights. We did not put the yard lights on there. So, any other questions on the plan for street lights? Her question was, what happens to the yard lights? The yard lights will stay, and you will, just like probably on your current bill, you'll have a yard light fee on the MPS bill as well. Yep. Again, the street lights will be placed basically from. Okay. Yep. We don't have a set spot for those yet. We're not planning to put the streetlights in until probably next year or possibly the year after, depending on how much work we are able to get done up there. Well, what happened was the city of Moorhead took over the streetlight utility, and I'm part of the streetlight utility committee. So we initially planned to put lights in everywhere, but because they wanted to be more rural residential up there, they decided just to light the main thoroughfare and leave everything else the way it is. You do have options too if you do want streetlights, and I know you don't. You can go through the petition process, and basically what we do is if you want a streetlight, you request one through the City of Moorhead's website, and then the streetlight committee reviews it. We'll send out a letter to all the probably about 5 to 10 neighbors of yours on both sides of you, and they will say if they want the streetlight or not. If everybody agrees to the streetlight, we'll put one in. If not, if there's, I think it's 50% or a majority doesn't want it, then we won't put it in.
How's that cost assessed at?
For the streetlights?
Yes. and existing ones.
Okay, no cost is going to be assessed for the streetlights. You pay that through you're going to have a line on your bill for streetlights.
What does that cost?
$4.
$4.
In the existing streetlights you have marked on here, you wouldn't believe LED?
Yes, all the new lights that we will put in up there will be LED.
So would the older ones be updated also to that eventually?
Yeah, as the lights have problems, his question was the maintenance of the lights and the changing to LED. As the lights go out or they start cycling and stuff like that, MPS will come up and will replace those lights with an LED fixture.
We're going to be paying for the lights along road there, then the yard lights, we're gonna pay a fee there too, right?
Correct, yes. If you want a yard light, you'll have a fee for the yard light. What?
If you have one, you gotta pay for it.
Yep. If you have a yard light, you have to pay for it. Plus, you will pay for the street light fee of $4.
That really isn't fair to some of us that do have streetlights right now.
I have a question, back to the dual fuel thing. If we convert from, or when we convert from the Red River's dual fuel to Moorhead's dual fuel program, does somebody have instructions for the wiring of that? Who knows how to do that? I mean, so that if I want to do it myself, is there instructions?
I'm going to let Joe answer that question.
The instructions come with the controllers, with our receivers. With our receivers, there's a set of instructions, what's wired and how it's controlled, right with the controller. So if the residents want to do it, all they'd have to do is pick up the controller, fill out an application for it, and then make sure it passes with the state electrical inspector, and then we'll come out and inspect it and take it from there.
Thanks, Joe.
She had a question.
Oh.
I have a good yard light, so, and all these street lights, why do I need so much light at night? I like to sleep. Seriously, the light that I have now comes in my bedroom window and I have to draw the shades because it's so bright.
Well, I'll talk about the LED lights.
Yeah, so the LED lights, they're a dark sky compliant light. So basically, that light should not be shining into your yard or into your house. It's more directed onto the street area.
So that should help that part.
No, I know the one where we dump our garbage, that light shines into my yard, and it's very bright.
You must live on Wall Street then.
I'm good, I don't need a mic. The city streets, or the light fee, is that assessed to every resident of Moorhead, or just up in Old Fort Mountain?
No, correct. Every customer in the city of Moorhead pays that streetlight utility fee. And that's to cover all the lights within the city of Moorhead.
Lauren knew this question was coming.
And that leads me into thanking all the members for being members of Red River Valley Co-op, whether you're brand new to the system or have been on our system for 50 or more years. We really sincerely appreciate you being members. Regarding capital credits, there's two ways that our bylaws currently allow for the retirement of capital credits. One is what's referred to as a general retirement. That's where Red River's Board of Directors on an annual basis typically declares a general retirement of a particular year or a particular percentage of the capital credits that we have outstanding to you, the member. The other way is through an estate retirement where a member passes away and the estate sends us information and then we retire those capital credits to the estate. So I would encourage you, once the service gets transferred to Moorhead, if you move, make sure you notify the cooperative of your change of address. Because whether we retire the capital credits next year, 10 years down the road, or 20 years down the road, you will continue to receive that check until all of your equity has been paid back to you.
Oh, another question.
Go back to, you talked about installing the controller yourself, what do you need, I mean, you said it comes, you pick up the box or whatever, what do you need?
Joe.
Beyond that? Repeat the question. I mean, so we can pick it up and install it, or
The question is more detail about the controller that you pick up and if you want to do it yourself, if the instructions are with.
The instructions in the controller are the instructions for the controller itself. Now, depending upon how you hook up your heating system, there again, each system will be different. So whether you have baseboard or if you have electric furnace or whatever, there's generally a relay box set beside it that controls that. And this is what the controller controls, is the relays, which control your different heat systems in the house. There again, we don't have wiring for that. If you need some help, we can maybe give you some ideas, but the diagram that we provide is for the controller itself.
There are, general diagrams on the web in our rules and regs, general.
Okay, so we go in, we install the box, then you said we call you, or do we have to have an electrician actually come out and verify it, or what's the next step after it's installed?
Once it's installed, and you can, you should be able to test it. We send out a signal. You come back to us, you have an application you start off with first. You pick up the controller, then you call in and say it's ready to be tested. We come out and test it, and once we test it and it passes our inspection, then we give you credit for the rate.
Well, like Lauren said, I want to thank you for, coming tonight, and we welcome you to Moorhead Public Services electric system in the future this fall. And if there are other questions, you can hang around afterwards or give us a call. Our contact information is on there. And as far as the future, you will see notifications from us. We will send you letters on when we think, and then we'll do door hangers so that you know about when we're going to be doing that. So when you see the interruption, which shouldn't be too many minutes, you'll know why it's being interrupted. This presentation will be on our website if you want to re-listen to it. And we're hoping it to be done in early October. So, and Lauren had one more thing to.
I was just going to mention everybody also here in the room that Bill and I were planning on sending out probably another letter, probably in September sometime, a little closer to the time when the transfer is actually going to be taking place. So it's not going to be, you get the letter today and it's going to take place tomorrow. We'll give everybody probably a week or 10 days notice when we're anticipating having to give you or provide you the least interruption as possible when this transfer takes place.
And yeah, I did mention the door hangers. They're doing motions back there for door hangers. So. Yep, that's what they'll do. They'll pull the meter out and put another one in, and that's really, other than all the stuff in the background, that's kind of the extent of that. I suppose you could get 2 bills in 1 month, but they shouldn't be bigger than the 2 combined, but yeah. Yep. Well, thank you, everybody. Yep.
Why are we going to have to pay more than Moorhead when this all happens?
It was all part of that negotiations.
95%, I'm willing to say, did not get to vote on that issue.
Yeah, I really can't do anything about that. We're following what was agreed to in that orderly annexation agreement. So, yeah. Well, thank you all for coming. Please linger as long as you want, and we'll answer more questions. Thanks again.